there, my name is Kelly Dale and I'm owner of Off the Beaded Path located in Forest City, North Carolina. Easter is less than 2 weeks away, and I celebrate Easter as the resurrection of Jesus Christ. So today, I'm going to show you how to make a 3D cross pendant using 104 either bicones, rounds, pearls, whatever you want to use. But you're going to need 104. You're going to need 2 needles. I'm going to be using size 10. You're going to need some 6-pound Fireline. And you'll need a good pair of scissors. So go ahead and get your materials together and we'll get started. To start, I've threaded the needle onto each end of a 1-yard piece of Fireline. With one needle, I'm going to pick up 4 beads and I'm going to let those drop onto my thread. With the other needle, or the same one, it doesn't matter, I'm going to pick up 1 bead, slide it down onto the thread just a little bit, and I'm going to cross the needles opposite ways through the 1 bead. Now, I'm going to put the needles together and pull the bead down so that when I do, it reaches the center, so that I will have a circle of 5 beads as such. With each needle, we want to pick up 1 bead, let those fall, and with 1 needle, I'm going to pick up 1 bead, pull it down onto the thread just a little bit, and cross my needles opposite ways through it, so that now that gives me the bottom circle of 5, the top circle of 4. And I'm going to zoom in here a little bit more so that you can see it. I'm going to do this again. 1 bead onto each needle. Let those fall. Pick up 1 bead on 1 needle, and I'm going to cross the needles opposite ways through the 1 bead, so that when I pull, now I have my circle of 5 and 2 smaller circles. I'm going to do this one more time. 1 bead onto each needle. Let those fall. 1 bead onto 1 needle. I'm going to pull it down and cross through it. Okay, so this gives me 4 boxes so far. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I'm going to do this one more time. So I'm going to have 1 bead onto each needle. Let those fall. Pick up 1 bead with 1 needle. And I'm going to cross my needles opposite ways through the 1 bead. So that now you have the bottom of your cross, and then this box here is going to be where we're going to come out for the other part. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick this up, and I'm going to start with one side. It doesn't matter which side you start with, but I'm going to start with this side here. I'm going to take the needle that is coming out of this bead, and I'm going to come right down through the bead right next to it. Just the 1 bead. I'm going to pick up 3 beads. I want to make a circle. My thread is coming out here to the bottom, so I'm going to take and come right through the same bead to make a circle and pull. So now you see I've got a nice tight hold on this needle here so that it keeps the other pieces tight as I work. Now using this same needle, I'm going to get into position, so I'm going to come through this bead of my new box and this bead of my new box so that I can add another one. So I'm going to go through the bead, through this bead here, and now I'm going to pick up 4 beads. Four beads. Again, I want to make a circle. The thread is coming out in this direction, so I'm going to take the needle and I'm going to come straight through the bead to make a circle and pull. So that now, when I flip it this way so that you can see it, this gives me the first half of the cross shape, and I need the second half. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use the same needle, and I want to stitch back to come back out of that center bead so that I'm in position when I get ready. So my needle is coming out of this bead. I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to point to it first, and then I'm going to show you. The whole point of right angle weave is that you don't see thread passing between your beads. So my thread is currently coming out of this middle bead here. I'm going to come through this bead, this one, and then through this one, so that my threads are coming out opposite sides of this bead. If I was to take my needle and just come straight through, you would see a thread there, and that's not what we want. So again, I'm going to go through the top, this one, and then this one. So through that one, through the middle here, through this one, this one, and then through the top one. Whoops. There we go. So that my threads are coming out opposite sides there of that top bead, because we need to be in position to finish out the cross. So now I'm going to lay this one down, I'm going to pick up this needle, and I'm going to do the same thing as we did on the other side. So I'm going to take the thread, I'm going to come right down through the bead right next to it. The first time I only pick up 3 beads. So 1, 2, 3. My thread is coming out in this direction. I want to make a circle, so I'm going to come back down through the same bead. I need to get into position over here to do the next circle, so I'm going to come through this bead and this bead. I'm going to come there and through this one. This time I'll pick up 4 beads. Again, I want to make a circle. My thread is coming out in this direction, so I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to come straight through the same bead to make my circle. Now I'm done here. I want to be coming out of this bead here in the center. So I'm going to point to it again so that you can see. I'm going to come through this top bead, through this bead, this one, and then this one. So again, threads coming out here. I'm going to come through this bead, this one, and this one. So come through, then through this one, this one, this one, and then finally this one, so that the threads are coming out in opposite directions of that same middle bead here. Now to finish out the cross, and I'm going to pull this back just a little bit so that you can see the entire cross when I finish. I'm going to pick up 1 bead onto each needle and let it fall. And I'm going to pick up 1 bead on 1 needle, and I'm going to cross opposite ways through that 1 bead. Now with 1 needle, just 1 needle, I'm going to pick up 4 beads. 1 needle, 4 beads. My thread is coming out in this direction, so I'm going to take my needle, I'm going to come back through that same bead I'm coming out of to make a circle, so that when I pull, I have my last loop of 4 on the top. Now, I'm going to stitch through those 4 again that I just added. So, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I'm stitching through those 4 again so that my threads are coming out next to each other. And I'm going to tie these into a circle. Or, I'm sorry, tie them together, not tie them into a circle. Tie them together into a couple of very good knots. Now, if you want to stitch through and tie more knots, you are more than welcome to. This is just for video purposes so that you can see how it's done. I'm going to stitch through a few beads with each needle. I never cut my thread next to a knot. You are asking for heartache and trouble if you do that. So, and Lord help you if you just do a hot mess like I did here. What in the world? There we go. Okay. Now, I'm going to trim both of the threads. You've got this one finished, and when you finish this one, you'll want to make another one identical to it. So you'll need 2 pieces exactly alike. Once you finish those 2 pieces, then you're ready to actually do the connection. So to do the connection, I'm going to use a metallic gold bead so that you can see when I actually start it. So the first thing I'm going to do is we need to cut some new thread. So you will want to thread a needle onto each end of a 1.5 yard piece of Fireline. Once I've got my needles threaded, I'm going to take the 2 pieces that I have and I'm going to lay them right on top of each other so that they match the way they lay. And I'm just going to lay that down onto my mat just like so. With one needle, I'm going to pick up 1 gold crystal. If you are doing, I'm doing this gold crystal just for the purpose of you being able to see where the bead goes. You'll want to use the same color, or you can accent it and use a different color. But I'm going to let that gold drop down. And I always like to start at the top of my cross because it comes to a point almost here at the top, so it's just a little easier to see. Now I'm going to try and zoom in here without it messing up on us too much, so if it starts to get blurry, I do apologize. I'm going to take 1 needle and come through my very top bead. I'm going to take the other needle and I'm going to do the same thing, going in the same direction on the other side, so that it looks just like this. Now I'm going to put the 2 needles together and I'm going to pull so that when I do, now my gold bead that I picked up just a second ago is right at the very top of my cross, just like that. Now I'm going to lay this down with 1 needle. I'm going to pick up 1 gold and I'm going to cross my needles opposite ways through that 1 bead. And I'm going to pull. When I pull, that puts my next gold bead into place here around the edge. Now, still holding it together, I'm going to come down through the very next crystal on one side. And this one will take a little, this top part, anywhere you have 4 is a little bit harder to get through. But I'm going through the very next crystal with the 1 needle. And then I'm going to take the other needle and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go down through the very next crystal. Again, I'm going to lay it down. 1 needle picks up 1 gold bead or 1 bead, cross your needles opposite ways through the one bead and pull. When you pull it, you now have 3 beads in place. Hold it together. If you need to turn it to one side at a time so you can see what bead you're going through, that is fine. I'm going to take the needle and I'm going to come down through the very next bead on this side and then the very next bead on the front side. Pull. I'm going to lay the pieces back down. I'm going to pick up one bead onto one needle and I'm going to cross the needles opposite ways through the one bead and pull. Now this bead that I just added, I started at the very top. This bead that I just added is right in the corner. It'll sit right in the corner between the top of the cross and the actual cross section here. So far I've added 1, 2, 3. The fourth one that I added sits right down into that little crook. So once I get that, now I'm just going to continue along the outer perimeter, just like I've been doing. So I'm going to go through the very next bead on each side. This can also be done in a one needle technique. If you are comfortable with right angle weave, by all means do a one needle technique. Okay, I'm going to lay the piece back down. One bead, cross opposite ways through the one bead. Pull. Okay. Now I'm to my circle of 4. So I'm just going to come through the first bead of the circle of 4 here on each side. Lay the cross back down. Pick up one bead. Cross your needles opposite ways through the one bead. I'm going to go through the next bead of the circle of 4 here. Lay the cross down. Pick up one bead. Cross opposite ways through the one bead. Again, I'm going to go through the next bead along the outer edge here. Pick up one bead. Cross opposite ways through the one bead. Alright, I'm going to go through and I'm going to kind of pull it apart here so you can see. I'm going to go through the next bead with each needle. And I'll flip it over to the front side so you can see what I'm doing. So I went through that very next bead with each needle. And this is really, really flimsy. When you start working with it, the two pieces that you've made are really flimsy. But don't worry about it because the beads that you're adding are going to make it more sturdy. I'm going to pick up one bead, cross opposite ways through it. It's going to make it more sturdy so that you don't have to worry about it being flimsy. Okay, so there's my new bead added down in there. Okay, and I'm going to just lay it here to the front. I just crossed through my bead here, so I'm going to go through the very next bead. I'm just following along the outer perimeter, just going through the very next bead here on the front side, and the same on the back side. I'm going to pick up one bead. I'm going to cross opposite ways through it. Okay, so that when I do that, that goes, you can see right there, it kind of falls right down in there, so that now I'm ready to start working down this way. So what I'll do is I'll take the needle, and I'm going to come down through the very next bead here along the outer perimeter. And same thing on the other side. Just go through the very next bead along the outer perimeter. Pick up one bead. I'm going to cross my needles opposite ways through that one bead. Go down through the very next bead on each side. And please, if you can't see this, please don't email me and tell me you can't see this, because it doesn't matter what color I would have used for this, it's still going to be hard to see. Inevitably, no matter what color I use, somebody emails and says they couldn't see it. And I do apologize if you can't see it. But that's why I'm using the gold, to give a little bit of a contrast. So I've got one bead on one needle, cross opposite ways through it, pull, go through the very next bead with each needle, and you're going to continue going through every bead along the outer perimeter until you have a bead added between each space, just like I've been working here on this one side. Once you've gone all the way around, adding your crystals or your beads in between your two crosses, this is what you will have finished. I finished it off by crossing through the last, or it would be the very, very first bead that I started with here at the top of my cross. Now, what I do for the ones that I have made is I go ahead and tie this off, and then you can either run, well, first I'll say I'll tie it off. Now, if you don't want to do what I do, and I'm going to tell you about it in a minute, you can go ahead and make a loop with beads or seed beads here on the very top, making a circle so that it will hang onto a cord or whatever else. But I'm going to stitch around to the other thread here, and I want to talk to you about how I finish off the cross. Lord help, got things twisted and tangled up everywhere. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and tie these two together in a couple of really good knots. Now, I will stitch through and tie it off a few more times, but what I like to do is, if you look here, this is the very top, you've got your very top 3 edge beads. What I do is I take a piece of silver or gold chain or your beading wire or whatever you're going to put through, and I run it straight through under this very top bead here. is how I finish the crosses that I've been making off, because I like the cross to kind of be the art piece for the necklace. You run your beading wire or whatever else, run it through here just like I did in the 3D heart video. It's the exact same thing, it's just running through the very top. If you don't like that, like I said, make you a loop with the seed beads so that you'll have it. Otherwise, stitch through, tie it off a few more times, and you have a beautiful new cross. Now, I will tell you something that I've done too is I went on top with the 3.9 millimeter Montes and embellished some here in the center, and you can do that also. So you know, play with it, have a good time with it. There's 100 ways to make these little 3D crosses. This is just my version of it, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. So I hope you guys enjoyed learning how to make the 3D cross, and I hope that you are able to get one made before Easter. But I want you to drop what all you've got, and I want you to look right here. Look me in the eyes. Me and you, right here. Do not do this project at 11 o'clock at night when you are sleepy and you are tired and you've worked all day, because you won't get it and you're going to get really frustrated and you're going to email me and be mad at me, and I've not done anything but teach you how to make the cross, okay? Do this project when you are refreshed, you're ready to go, you're ready to make a new project, not at 11 o'clock at night, okay? And no, this does not need to be the very first beading project you ever do. It needs to be something that, you know, you've got a little stitching experience with. So, I hate to be so forthcoming, but sometimes we just have to be told sometimes. So, I'm getting ready to go off for a couple of days, gonna run away where nobody can find me, so I can get refreshed and do some more videos for you guys. So, I'll see you back next week when I'm going to help Brian out and teach him how to do a tubular net stitch. So we'll see you guys next week. Have a good one. Bye bye.